Hey everybody, it's Desarae again. I'm going to wait a couple minutes to see if anybody logs in. So last week I started off these videos by again answering questions about how to start a small business, technology, website design, and we kind of ended it with some questions on SEO, also known as search engine optimization. So figured kind of go forward with that theme unless anybody else logs on live and has some questions that I could answer. So again, last week with the search engine optimization. So if you're ever trying to look it up, you can look up SEO or search engine optimization. And two people who logged in last week, Sue Barnes, who owns My T-Dog and trained my dog, and Tom Hudson, both said that they have Wix websites, W-I-X. So for anybody who's not familiar with Wix, it's a form of a content management system. So they're usually just called CMSs. And you might be a little bit more familiar with WordPress or Blogger. There's other e-commerce versions like Shopify. Anyway, so these two friends have their business websites on Wix. And the one thing to note about Wix that is convenient for anybody who's not tech savvy or doesn't know how to code is that it's kind of a template type system. So very drag and drop, and it makes it pretty easy to use, but you're generally using a template type system. So you pick out whatever they already have, and then you can drag it around, change some colors. The major downside here is it's a little bit harder to optimize for the web. And I know I keep saying that term without explaining it, so let's back up a couple steps. If you're looking for something on Google, Yahoo, any other search engine, Bing, for example, there's a process. It's a lot like, and I'll use the same way that I described it last week, it's a lot like organizing a library, the way that it's indexed. So there are things that are called robots or bots, or sometimes they're called spiders. And these are just a form of an algorithm. So very nerdy term for a lot of code. And what it does is it takes certain preset factors and uses that information to categorize your site so that when somebody uses a search term or phrase, so when I say search term, I just need one word versus a phrase can be like anything up to a few words. So if you were looking for a trainer, so like a dog trainer, that would just be a keyword. And the phrase would be, board and train or something, right? So there are a lot of ways of finding the appropriate keywords and terms for your stuff. So now that I've kind of explained what search engine optimization keywords are, I'll get a little bit more into what the requirements are for this stuff. And again, at any time, if somebody logs on and has a question, please feel free to stop me or just ask more questions so that we have other stuff to talk about. And even if you log in after I've already posted this video, feel free to leave questions in the comments, and I'll do this again next Friday at 4 o'clock, and I'll answer your questions from the week before. So anyway, back to Wix. The big problem with that is there are a few different ways to have your site show up in search results, and those are often called like SERPs, so SERPs. And if you log in to this post again tomorrow, I'll transcribe some of this stuff and put some tips in the description after the fact. So hi to whoever just logged on. Feel free to leave me a comment or a question. Anyway, so back to Wix. Basically, the idea with it is you have to have good, clean code, and Google sets a whole bunch of guidelines and standards for this stuff. You can also set up your site with Google Webmaster tools. There's another tool. Oh shoot, I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it later and I'll put it in the description. But there are quite a few tools that you can use. different analytics. So a free one is Google Analytics, but there are plenty of other ones out there that you can use for user experience testing and just to better understand your users' behavioral flows, A/B testing, and to figure out, you know, when people are on site versus coming to your site, and using your own search tool, which page they're on, what terms they're using, how they landed on your site, which sites they're coming from, how long they stay on a page, which is really important, because if they land on it and then they leave really quickly to go to another page on your site, that's a bounce rate. If they leave really quickly completely in your entire website, that's called your exit rate. So generally a good rule of thumb for that is under 25%. Anything higher than that, you can just assume that page probably needs a little bit of updating, because either it's not what most people going to that page are looking for or whatever. There's other tools like heat maps that you can use to figure out where people are generally looking on the page when they're on your website. You can also use them to figure out things like where they click when they're on the page. So when they go on to a certain part of the navigation and where they click next, whether it's within the actual article text, if you have links there, or if you have stuff in your sidebar, that kind of thing. So those are different forms of analytics. Google has a tool for AdWords that's really, really useful if you're trying to figure out what keywords or what to write about, really. So that's called the, I think like Google, if you wanted to Google it, I would just Google Keyword Planner. And you'll immediately see something called, you know, Google AdWords is stuff. Just sign up really quick. And then what you can do is you can either put in your website and it can give you recommendations, or you can type in like a competitor's website, or like a list of keywords or those phrases that I described earlier. And what you'll do with that is it'll give you back like a whole list of terms. And I know I should have had this pulled up on my computer before so I could just show some examples, but the upside of doing that is you get all these additional keywords, and maybe they're a little bit more relevant to what you're hoping for. Because a lot of times when people say, oh, I want to rank really highly on Google, or I want to have the #1 spot, or I just Googled myself for my name or this thing that I do, and it's like the top thing that I do for my company, and I'm just not ranking very well. Well, how do you actually know that? Because using your own browser that you are commonly searching this stuff over and over again on isn't really going to tell you that. What is going to tell you that is the analytics tools that I told you earlier, where people are coming from and actually searching for you. Google Webmaster tools will tell you how many impressions you're getting monthly. It will tell you your actual ranking, like the page that you're showing up on for everybody else. Whereas you just searching for yourself on a search engine isn't going to do that. It's not going to give you a realistic answer. So keep that in mind. Just because you go out and you type something in on Google, that's not necessarily your website's ranking. You could just be showing up number on page 1 or whatever because you're commonly searching that, and so it's expecting that. So keep that in mind, and then the analytics tools, obviously. Again, if anybody has business questions, kind of running out of stuff here. Let's see. So anyway, we're initially talking about Wix when I started this off. So now that you have kind of a rough idea of what search engine optimization is and what keywords are, something to keep in mind with Wix is because you can't edit the code, stuff that you can do to help improve your search rankings is making sure that you have good titles, good descriptions. That's the stuff that will go into your metadata. So the things that show up in the SERPs that I was explaining earlier, or your search results, will really be affected by that. And also making sure that you use the keywords that you're hoping to show up as, because if you're hoping to show up as a dog trainer, for example, and you don't have that in the header, so the primary header of that page, or the title of the page, which you can quickly check what the title of your page is. It's the same thing that the tab in your search browser shows up as. That's going to end up being the same title as what's going to show up for the search results. Having a good solid description, and if you're using something like WordPress, you can quickly change that by putting in an excerpt or having various plugins that help you with search engine optimization like Yoast. And then specifying those keywords and actually having them in your very first paragraph of the article or page paragraph that you're writing. Because if you don't, then whatever you do write about a lot in that article is how it's going to be categorized. I mean, again, it's the same as like a book. If you're writing about, well, if you want to show up for writing about walking a dog and all you're talking about is cooking, like that's not going to make a lot of sense. So just keep that in mind. I mean, and it seems like something after like somebody else points it out to you, like an aha type moment, like, oh, okay, well, I thought I had a book blog, but you know, I have this other obscure hobby and I just wanted people to know that I had that hobby, so I posted that. So it's good to think about that too. And back to this, so the clean code, but there's other stuff in there, like obviously these robots or bots that are kind of categorizing you on search engines are not going to know what an image is. Like if there's text inside of an image, it can't read that. So there is something usually called, when you upload an image to any kind of content management system, called an alt attribute, and you can put in a little descriptor text about what that image is and what's on it, if there's any text, that kind of thing, and just describe it really clearly, maybe include your keyword if it's relevant to that image, and that will really help you too. But in the long run, it's going to be actually using those keywords, having consistent articles. If you have a blog, it's really helpful to post on a regular basis. So once a week is really helpful because then you have fresh content. If you have a brand new website and you're in a pretty competitive field for your region, it's going to be very hard for you to show up in search results, but it's possible. But another one of those factors that Google is considering when it's ranking you in your search results is your position and how long you have had that website. So if you just purchased the domain and you just set up a really simple Wix website, it's probably going to take a month or a couple months even before you start showing up for anything, even your name. So it's kind of patience there. And when we go back to talking about that keyword planning tool, a couple of other really nice things that it does for you is it tells you how competitive that keyword is. So how many other people in your area are trying to rank for that word. And then it tells you how many searches there are on average globally or by your region per month. So when you're looking at keywords and what you're going to write about for the future, and you're trying to decide what you actually want to rank for, because you might have one thing in your head, but that might not actually be the thing that people are looking for you for. So what you'll try to do instead is you'll look for words that are related to what you thought, and then you look for something that is got a lot of searches, so a lot of people are looking for that in your region, specifically in your region. But there's low competition. And with that, you're going to show up probably within the first month, maybe two. And if it says medium or hard, high competition, then it's probably going to take you anywhere from 4, 6, maybe even 12 months to rank for that. So you think of that as like your long-term goal, and your short-term goals are going to be those ones that are a little bit easier. So to also narrow it down when you're thinking about what keywords for search engine optimization that you'd like to rank for, really think a little bit more specifically. So I keep using this dog training example, but use it for whatever you do for your business, right? So you're not a PetSmart. So if all you do is dog board and trains or dog walking, you don't want to try to compete with like a big grocery store or a big pet store, because again, you're not a PetSmart. So you're not sending out people's dog foods. You're not a veterinarian who's sending out prescriptions and looking at your pet for all kinds of other things. And if you don't travel out of state to go work with animals out of state, then you probably don't care about that either. So try to be like as specific as possible so that you get people who are actually interested in your business specifically. So hypothetically, back to our example, you're a dog trainer in Des Moines, Iowa, then you're going to specify that with your keywords that you're a Des Moines, Iowa dog trainer, not anything more than that. So thanks for watching, and we'll try this again next week.